Hey, real quick, before we get into that episode, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss out on any marketing nuggets. Enjoy the show.
What does 5 years of experience mean? From one company, it can mean one thing. From another company, it can mean something else. This person that might have a different type of background, but can very much do X, Y, and Z, which you actually need the employee to do. That's what you're screening for. That's what you're advertising for.
Hi, I'm Josh Owen. As the owner of a video marketing company in New Orleans, I've been on the quest to learn everything I can about marketing. Everyone has a different style, different strategy, and a different experience. Is there a wrong way to do it? A right way to do it? Let's find out together as we make marketing make sense. Welcome, everybody, to a wonderful episode of Make Marketing Make Sense. Today, I'm joined by the lovely Jennifer Jeansonne from JAJ Consults. She's the owner. And she's fantastic. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Josh. I'm super excited to be here and talk all things hiring and recruiting.
That's right. We're here to talk about hiring and recruiting, but more importantly, specifically, there's a specific type of hiring we're talking about, and that's attribute-based hiring, which I know very little about. So I would love, first of all, give me the lowdown of what is attribute-based hiring.
Yeah, I'm happy to fill you in with everything you need to know and more about it. So it's really trendy right now in the recruiting and hiring space, and companies and the industry in general has been trying to figure out how to approach it, how to incorporate it. It's definitely a hot topic. So it's also known as skills-based hiring. So, traditionally job descriptions are written like you need X degree with X amount of experience. And, you need all these like boxes to check that are very, how do I say, they're not full of meaning. So like they can change. What does 5 years of experience mean? Well, from one company, it can mean one thing. From another company, it can mean something else. Right. So there's been a really big push to attributes-based or skills-based hiring where you actually look to say, what do I need this employee to do? What skills or attributes do they need to possess in order to be successful in the role? And what do we need that role to function in our company or in that position? And defining it in a different way. So, I'm a big champion of removing barriers. So it provides things that are kind of not concrete and saying, this person that might have a different type of background but can very much do X, Y, and Z, which you actually need the employee to do. That's what you're screening for. That's what you're advertising for. That's what you're describing the role and performance to do, not something that's just really, discretionary, like 5 years of experience. So
yeah. So when you're saying that, it's almost like having more of a specific specificity, not on this arbitrary. It almost seems like experience is very arbitrary. It's more so I need the skill set that specifically.
Yes. Thank you. The arbitrary was the word I was trying to find. It. My brain just is still on a little bit of a jazz fest hangover. But yes, it's arbitrary to say number of years of experience. Now, there are certain industries like the medical field, CPA, that you need a very specific degree,
lawyer,
and
engineer,
training program. Yeah. But those things are
interesting.
You have to have that particular degree or training program.
Yeah.
But you can still incorporate the skills-based or attributes-based hiring in those industries as well. Yeah. It's just really looking at the qualities of the person and what their book of experience might bring to the table as opposed to something on paper.
Yeah.
So it opens up the doors for companies to get a different type of candidate maybe and a different type of hire, someone that brings what you actually need instead of looking at something that is arbitrary, like numbers of years of experience. Because like you as a podcast host, for the first year of your business, you built it yourself. You've gained so many skills and knowledge, and you have a certain product that you can bring. But if someone like a specific advertising company was saying, they must have at least 7 years of podcasting experience, you may be far more talented and could fit into their team and what they need more just with 1 year of experience versus someone who technically has 7 years of working.
That's true.
Like, you're really looking at what the person brings to your team and what your team needs and how you need them to function versus the number of years that they bring. So it's really kind of taking that years and degree and kind of like throwing it out the window and saying, what do I need this person to do and what kinds of skills would complement the people that are there?
Yeah.
What do we need to bring on board that we maybe didn't have as the last person? And then it also puts the expectations of the level of the role up front. So, there's one thing you might just be contributing. Another one, you might be teaching others on your team to do something. You might be ideating new ideas, and those types of things you would say in the job description. So from a candidate perspective, they know what type of job they're going to be expected to do from the beginning. And then it helps both the company and the candidate kind of come together and you find the right fit to fill that position, I believe, in a better way than...
Well, that's what I'm curious about is because I think it sounds good to me, but what does that kind of look like? When you're saying like, okay, we need to hire him based off these skills, like how do you start, like how would this, because it's like, like you're saying 1 year of podcast experience could be a lot better, but how, like when you're doing that, like how do you start to implement that? Like how do you start to put that together?
Yeah, first you have to look at your organization, whether it's big or small, it doesn't matter the size, but you really have to say, what do I need this person to do in the role? And a lot of times when companies have turnover, they just take the old job description and put it up on the internet, start screening candidates, and then you bring them in and you're like, okay, well, this is what the job did before. So we're just going to rinse and repeat and do it again. Well, I think you should really start and say, what do we need this job to do? You can use the old job description that you might have had. And I like to say, well, what types of things would you like to see different? What types of things were really great about the role? So anytime you have a role that you either need to backfill or you're adding to your team, it's important to see how you want them to function as part of your bigger ecosystem and what you need that person to do and at what level. And then you can back out of that and say, I need this person to be able to be autonomous on this type of thing. Well, that means that they come with certain sorts of projects that they might have worked on. So for example, if you're hiring an iOS developer with a specific language or a specific sequence of coding, you need someone that has some experience. And then you're also then looking for that person that has worked on a certain type of team. So you're looking, really breaking it down and saying, okay, this is the type of role we need and what the experience they bring to the table. And then that because you know what you expect that role to function as part of your bigger ecosystem. So you're first starting to say, how do I need this role to function in my organization?
Right.
And then you're going to say, okay, where can I find that type of candidate, or what might they have done as previous jobs or projects or skill sets, and then you write the job description to try to attract the right types of people. So it's like kind of backing into it, and it's also kind of tying it in to their performance management and what you expect them to do in the role, which you have to know what you expect the person to do in the role before you can find the right person to fill that.
Well, that's what I'm curious about is like, and maybe this is a good point you bring up, like that, maybe if we target an industry, while we're talking about this, so like, let's say it's hospitality, you're a restaurant or whatever it might be, but, I guess, can you elaborate a little bit on the types of attributes that you would put down, because obviously it's like, I want you to, I liked this hire. I liked this last person we had.
Right.
And we want to find, or we didn't like this last person we had. How do you use that knowledge, from your previous experience with your hires to like inform your upcoming, like, because like you're saying, like it needs an update. You need to update it. So like, how do we update it to fit this model better?
Yeah. So let's take a general manager of a restaurant, for example. So you have some turnover. Or you have a promotion. I like to have some. You've promoted your general manager up to be your multi-unit manager.
Right.
You need to backfill this person, and so you really, in the past, maybe the focus hasn't been as much on P&L and like being able to focus on the budgeting and the labor costs and really a financial acumen piece of it, right? So like or an attribute that you might have is, being someone that has direct P&L ownership. That would be an attribute. So, of a certain size that you would then say, my business is X size. I need someone that is familiar and has a proven track record of managing that P&L of a specific size. So that's an attribute or a skill. Notice I didn't say anything about having a degree in that particular, a finance degree, or I didn't say 10 years of documented experience doing it, because someone that has managed and run a $5 million restaurant, they have that experience. You see, you're looking for comparable, when you go to find that person, then you would look for comparable size P&Ls. So, another attribute would be a real employee-focused mentality. So someone that would be the skill or the attribute. So someone that when you talk to them about, how they approach people management or how they incorporate recognition and reward, when you're talking to them, you can hear them say things like, I make it a point to tell everyone happy birthday because I want them to feel valued. Or, I'm really big about giving feedback, both good and bad. So they have documented experience doing that. And you're able to take that out of your conversations with them. Gotcha. So when you're designing your questions that you ask this person to find someone that has an employee or a people-focused mentality, you're seeking out those examples that they're going to talk about and elaborate on that then showcase the skill set that you want them to have.
Interesting. Because it's I guess, and I like what you're saying. So, obviously when you're writing up the job description, it's more so like what you said, hey, I like that for those people out there. It's it's not so much about, did you go to this college, did you get these degrees of experience, but it's more so if you're able to showcase that you have dealt with a company of our size and done the action, which is what you mentioned is, have you dealt with the P&Ls of a business this size, or have you dealt with a staff of this size, that kind of stuff. I guess the question that I'm curious about, which you just kind of sort of mentioned, which is how do you then, the person says, okay, I have that experience, and how do you then, the dreaded interview portion, how do you, check that? How do you see if they are going to have those skills that you are looking for? How does that work?
Best practice is to have a consistent set of questions that you want to ask every candidate, so you can compare apples to apples. So you are very intentional about asking a question. So tell me about a time. Really behavioral based questions, I think, get people talking about their experience more so than, did you manage a team of 10? Right? So
yes. And then,
yes.
All right,
and then
question.
you don't get any information about that. It's a box that you check, right? That might be well suited for an early interview, a screening interview, just to see if this person meets some of the minimum skills that you might need. But you use the interview to really have them go deeper into their experience. And I also recommend, getting a couple of different perspectives if your team is big enough to get that, but also being very intentional about not asking the same questions in each interview. So that way you can dive deeper into more of the experience and more of you cover more ground, right? But you're going to also make sure that if you say in your job description that you're looking for a people-focused manager or complete P&L ownership, you're going to then directly have a question in your interview process that's connected to it. That's a behavioral interview. So I might ask, a question, tell me about, how you provide feedback in the environment of feedback that you have set forth, amongst your team, in the current role or in a previous role. What are some things that are important and that you really value? And so that would very specifically ask that. So that way you can ask, if you have 3 candidates, 10 candidates, you're asking that same question so you can compare, Josh, this is how Josh approached it. This is how Jennifer approached it. This is how Eric approached it. And you can say, okay, well, we really like this person's approach or skills or the way that they manage this. We like this part the best, so this is why we're going to go to that candidate. So really being intentional to match how you expect them to perform, how you advertise it so you can attract the right people, but then how you screen it to make sure that you're really digging at that skill set that you're looking to get and able to ask those behavioral-based questions.
I guess too, because this all makes sense, really like making sure you're asking a question that sets them up to give you a quality answer. But also, what are some of the things that you notice that businesses aren't doing, even like some of the challenges that maybe they are trying to set the system up and you're helping them do it. What are the things that a lot of businesses, like, it's kind of like they struggle to like get into this? Like, what are the struggles with getting into this mindset?
Yeah, I think having a mindset that you're just doing it the way you've done it in the past, like, I don't think people intentionally aren't open to new ideas.
Yeah.
I think people's bandwidth just isn't there to like have the ability to think about it differently. I was listening to a podcast this morning when I was walking my dog, and like it said something about like people are routine or people have habits because it takes a lot of brain power and like really a deep movement and energy in your body to make changes or do something in a new approach. And I think a lot of times people just aren't exposed to new ideas and new ways of doing it, or, they just have so much going on.
Right.
And this is just one thing that they have to figure out how to fit into their life. And so, where I can come in and help out is to point out different ways of doing it. Just really be like a listener. And I love to immerse myself into conversation and really truly learn what does a company need, and then help them think of creative ways to find it. And so, like I said, certain industries have specifics, but that's what I love about the hospitality industry, about other industries like startups and innovation and small businesses, because they typically are more open to looking at things in a different way. And if you center it on the attributes and skill sets that you're looking to have, then that's where I can come in and say, okay, well, where can we find someone that is employee-focused, people-focused, or what types of companies might have that type of P&L ownership? Because a P&L ownership in a restaurant is the same as a P&L ownership in a spa business. Like, it's the same, the skill set is there. It doesn't matter the industry, and it's, so using
that's interesting. Yeah, that's the best way.
That's what
it's starting to click.
And I'm really passionate about opportunity, and like I think anytime you have turnover or you're adding something to a team, you want something a little bit different. Yeah, and I'm not saying that the answer is always take a 180 and go a completely different direction, but being open-minded, I think, is the number one thing that I would encourage my clients or people that I'm, networking with or having conversations about where can you find what you're looking for. And it doesn't always come with the same job title or the same exact set of experience that you might have had in the past with a team member, or that you might have experienced. Like, it definitely can come in different places. And I often think that really enhances a company because it can bring different perspectives. Yeah. But if you know what you need them to do, then you can back out and say, okay, well, where might we find that? Maybe it is in the restaurant industry if you need a restaurant manager. But some of the best hires that I've made have been using this mentality, for my clients, and for when I was an in-house recruiter, is saying, okay, what do we need them to do? And how can we up-level or change the perspective a little bit to bring in a new voice or a new way of looking at it? And it really can be beneficial for a company.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. Fantastic. I mean, that's a great way to tie it up. I mean, I love everything that you're talking about there. I think the last thing that I want to just get on that before we end is, what are some like first baby steps that a business can do to kind of like, because I think I agree. I think at this point, like, the way people talk about it is like, it's a big deal. It's a big undertaking. It's probably best to hire someone for it. But what would be some baby steps before that to get yourself prepared for that, as a business?
Yeah, just I think being really transparent with what you need, like internally, and saying, and just being really honest with yourself. I think I'm really passionate about being upfront, honest, no trying to sugarcoat anything in a business. I'm a Southern woman. I have not necessarily been raised to do that. So that's something that I've grown over over time as I've matured and worked a little bit, like just being just really transparent, being open, honest. Okay, this is what I need. This is what worked. This didn't work. It's not personal. Like I've taken most things in life personally. And so the older I get, the more, it's not about what you did wrong.
Yeah.
It's really like with the focus of what do we need to do moving forward and being transparent about it. Like, how much are we going to pay this person? Let's share that with the person that are in our job description. So that way we're not wasting our time. We're not wasting candidates' time. We need them to do X, Y, and Z. Let's share that and be transparent in the job description.
Right.
And really just taking a 360 look at what you need that role to do and putting it out there, making the changes. So that would be the first baby step that I would do.
Yeah.
Just, being really open to saying, what do I need this person to do? And how can we communicate that to candidates? Because everyone hopes to get good organic applications, but you can then tell, since you know what you need, you can then tell your network. You can then tell people that you interview, like, we need this person to do this role in this way. And because you know that, you're able to communicate that in a transparent way, because interviewing and hiring is just as much about the candidate interviewing your company as well. And if you paint this picture or aren't like completely upfront about what you need in the job description or the interview process, then you're going to find yourself maybe with a great person and a great candidate, but they're not able to do what you actually need them to do, or they might have a picture of the job that they think is different than what the initial conversation was about.
Yeah.
So you're going to have more turnover down the road, or you're going to have someone that is maybe a little disgruntled, or, it's just not a good fit.
Yeah.
And so it's not doing anyone any good, whether if you don't have a good grasp of what you need that person to do.
Yeah.
And it's the intention part, right? So like you intend to do the best you can and give yourself credit for doing that. And if it changes over time, so be it. Great. You need to be able to flex and pivot, and you might find something in the interview process that you're like, maybe I really actually need this out of this candidate. So like being able to pivot as well with what you're looking for with your screening process, the people that you're networking with as a business owner, just being able to stay open-minded as well. So transparent and open-minded.
I like that.
A lot of some of the hires, I love having these feedback conversations with people that I'm working with to hire someone. And a lot of times things do change in the interview process, and just being really open and transparent. Like, this is what I liked about this person. This is what I didn't. You can then maybe find things that you maybe didn't know that you needed at first. And
put that on the list right there.
That's
cool. I mean, I love that aspect of being able to hire someone and pick like, hey, like, this is the position I'm hiring, but I'm looking for specifically for this action. Yeah. So that's awesome. Well, I feel like we could talk about this all day. There's so many other questions that are coming to my mind. I'm like, oh man, it just means you got to come back.
Oh, but, I would come back any day.
Hey, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. Well, in the meantime, what matters most is to tell everyone out there where they can find you. Out there in the social media webs and the internets and all that good stuff. Yeah, so I have a pretty big presence on LinkedIn. If you want to kind of get in my brain and how I approach work, my LinkedIn is one platform that you can see that. So Jennifer Jeansonne is my LinkedIn. It's Jeansonne. A good old Cajun name. I think they'll put it. Sure. Yeah, I think they'll put it down in the show notes as well. So you can find me there. I am also easily accessible on Instagram. I use that platform a little bit more for services for my job seekers. So if you are looking for tips and tricks on like how to tell your story in a good way, or how to showcase your attributes, that's a good spot. So at JAJ Consults there, and then I have a website. JAJconsults.com, and then I'm accessible, Jennifer at JAJconsults.com. Wow. So, all over the place. I love it.
You got it. You got to listen. You can find me in all the spots. I'm pretty responsive. So I would love to help you if you're a job seeker looking to land a new role, or if you're a business that is looking to network and learn some new ways, even if you can't can't find it in your budget to hire someone, I'm happy to help, and I love expanding and learning from other people, and maybe you guys can teach me something too.
Awesome. So, well, if you're looking for hiring, this is the person you need to be reaching out to. So talk more soon, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
This has been another great episode. Take it easy, y'all. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This episode of Make Marketing Make Sense is brought to you by Comfystone. If your business needs organic social media video content, video ads, or video podcasting, hit up Comfystone at comfystone.com and follow Comfystone on Instagram and TikTok. Until next time, this is Make Marketing Make Sense.